That's to sync the audio.
Yeah.
With the video.
Yeah, I know the biz.
Oh,
yeah.
do you? Okay, awesome. You've done this multiple times.
A couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome back to another episode of Life with Lamb. Today I'm here with...
James Hargreaves.
How are we doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
That's good. Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Thanks
Good.
for popping down in the morning.
Thanks for having me.
I know you're a busy man and got lots of
Pretend
things
to be.
Pretend to be. Anyway, what's been happening, I guess?
I was just explaining to you off air that I've just had it's kind of like my grand final, I suppose. Over the weekend, I had a CrossFit competition, which starts as a worldwide comp and then funnels down into, trying to find the fittest athletes in the country to compete against each other. And so I spent the entire weekend pretty much at the gym exercising, which is, not the most fun and exciting weekend, but it didn't quite go to plan, unfortunately, and just a little bit further down the leaderboard than we would have liked. But that's all right. We just, buckle up and get ready for another 12 months of training.
Fair enough. I guess let's stay back. Who are you? What are you about?
Who am I? Gosh, what a heavy hitting question for 9:15 a.m. It's an interesting question because as a part of my job, so that is part of who I am. I own a gym in Kew. It's called Workshop Gym. And I also have another business called See the Ability. But when I do onboarding sessions for potential new members at the gym, I always ask people, the process of getting to know them. I'm like, so tell me about yourself. What do you do? And the reoccurring theme 99% of the time is they always tell me their job. So they always say, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a, paramedic, whatever. And then my follow-up question is, well, what do you do outside of your job? Because, who are you?
Yeah.
And so now that question's flipped back on me. I suppose I would like to think of myself as like a hard-working, pretty easygoing guy that tries to live like one day at a time. I'm one of the lucky ones where I really love my jobs. As I said, I run a gym and I also run a small business called See the Ability, and we do personal training for kids with special needs and disabilities. And I get to wake up every day and love what I do. It creates some freedom to train a lot. And so I suppose I'd identify as like a pretty heavy exerciser too. I like going to the gym and trying to stay healthy and get strong. And then outside of that, I really value my girlfriend, my close friends and family. So try to dedicate as much time as I can to them.
Which is quite minimal.
Yeah. No, they're definitely they're high up on the hierarchy, but yeah, there's a few things up there too.
Yeah, awesome. And I guess talk to us about like how you were as a kid. I'm gonna get into your entrepreneurial side a little bit later, and of course your CrossFit journey as well. But What were you like as a little kid?
I was definitely I think I was a really hard-working kid, and when I'm reflecting on that, I think more so down the sport and athletic side of things. I loved school. I really liked my primary school, and I really liked my 6 years at my high school, but I was never the most talented or gifted kid, and so kind of knew that these values of hard work that mum and dad instilled in me from a young age, that they were important. And so I was that kid. You couldn't get into the school gym until year 9. So in year 7 and 8, doing push-ups and sit-ups and chin-ups at home just because I couldn't get into the weights room at school.
Classic.
But yeah, I loved hanging out with my friends. And yeah, very, very family and friend oriented, I think.
Okay,
So
awesome.
try to put a lot of energy into them. Make sure that they're living the good life too.
Has that always been a part of you? Have you felt that as you've grown older, you've sort of started to cherish that a bit more?
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely that component of, maturing, and you kind of realize the important things in life. I think, through those late teenage years, middle teenage years, it's all me. You're only you can only see so far in front of you, and you're a bit self-absorbed. And so, yeah, definitely from, 18, 19 onwards, finishing school, kind of grew up a bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Was there a certain turning point that you remember, or do you feel like it just sort of happened in the moment?
Yeah, off the top of my head, no particular turning point per se. Maybe like a couple of, and without getting too dire, maybe the catalyst for a few things was, some family members dying or things like that just kind of make you wake up to the...
It's like a big slap.
You never think you're going to die,
Yeah.
or you never think anybody around you is going to die, that kind of thing. And so then when it does happen, you kind of wake up a bit and you're like, oh, okay, this is pretty fleeting, so I may as well enjoy it whilst I've got it.
Yeah, definitely. That was pretty dire.
Yeah.
It's 9:20 in the morning.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. I guess also as a kid, you run 2 businesses now.
Yep.
Have you always been business minded?
Yeah, big time. As I said, whilst I was the kid doing the push-ups and sit-ups in the morning before school, I was also the kid that you couldn't get a job until 14 and 9 months. And so from 12, 13 and 14 and 8 months, I was, creating my own little flyers on like Microsoft Publisher in 2010, of that, a lawn mowing service that I could, hand around to the neighbours, because we used to live in a house which just had the nature strip lawns, so like a metre by like 5 metres of lawn. And so I would, drop them into everybody's letterbox and, for $5, I'll mow your lawn, until I could get a real job, and then got a job at a pizza store in Box Hill North. Shout out Pizza Works. Don't know if it's still there.
I feel like that name rings a bell, but...
Yeah. And then I got a job at like a burger place, and then I became a support worker. And so the main reason for becoming a support worker was because my older cousin, she was also a support worker. She was always going on these holidays and, jetting off overseas. And I was like, where are you getting all this coin? And she said, I'm a support worker. And, it starts at, $28, $29 an hour, and, kind of moves up from there. And for a 19-year-old fresh out of school at uni, $30 an hour is pretty good. It's nothing,
like the sweet spot.
Nothing to poke a stick at. And so I then inquired at this company called Interchange, and that's where she was a support worker, and kind of lent on the fact that I also have cousins that are autistic, so they're twins, and I get along with them very well. We've kind of grown up together. And then, became a support worker, and was a support worker for a couple of years, whilst also doing my exercise science and business degree at Deakin. And then kind of married the two of, the exercise science world and the support worker world, and then started See the Ability.
Yeah.
Because, I noticed a lot of the kids I was a support worker for were either, overweight, quite immobile, and just couldn't really move very well, or didn't have access to, being able to, the same way that you or I can just cruise into a 24/7 gym, or, get access to a PT. that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
started See the Ability, and here we are 4 and a bit years later.
Yeah, it is quite a niche sort of market that you've
Yeah.
tapped into.
Yeah, it is. And I suppose that's a good thing. It's interesting how in the disability sector, though, everyone seems to know everyone. So, I get a lot of... I haven't paid for any marketing or anything since its inception. And it just seems like, everybody knows everybody. So I get people inquiring, say, oh, my physio recommended you, or I hire a new trainer and, they've had a support worker history. And then the person that I give them to, the client or the participant, they're like, oh yeah, I already know them. And, it's a really small, and, maybe it's just a Melbourne thing, but yeah, it seems as though it's very interconnected. So the benefit of starting a business in that niche is that people talk. And if you prioritize, a good service, putting the participant first, that kind of thing, then it's almost like you doing your job well is the marketing.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, word of mouth just carries
correct,
throughout the whole community.
So as long as you put forward something that you're proud of and you're happy that, the word of mouth is going to be, helpful, not hindering, then it takes care of itself.
Yeah, definitely. I guess dating back, you have cousins who are autistic who you've gotten along really well with. Have you ever seen like instances where they've been sort of picked on or anything, or have you been sort of blindsided to that?
No, haven't really seen anything. You just get the usual, particularly through their formative years, so they're 21 this year, which is, even me saying that out loud is just crazy to think about. But they, from 12 through to 16, 17, you kind of forget the fact that they're teenage boys under there. So many people see the disability, hence the name of my business. So many people just see the, the autism or the Down syndrome or whatever it might be. And you forget that there's
a person underneath.
A 16-year-old hormonal, tantrum throwing teenage boy under there. And so, whether you're out and about and something happens and, you kind of struggle to regulate or control them a bit more, get a few side eyes, things like that. But nothing that's, ever ill-intended or, and more to your question, I never saw any kind of like direct bullying per se, or like picking on, nothing like that.
Okay, awesome.
I think, people are, the awareness around things like special needs, I think, has gotten so much better that, you see someone acting up in the supermarket, your first thought is, oh, well, maybe they're a beer short of a six-pack, or like they're not quite right, and people seem to be a little bit more empathetic and understanding. So, yeah,
definitely.
No Hollywood movie like school bullying scenes or anything like that.
I just thought it might marry into the idea of like why you created See the Ability.
Yeah, no, not really.
Okay, and I guess workshop, take us back to the whole CrossFit journey. And
workshop's a funny one because growing up, never knew what I wanted to do after school, and my dad is a professor at Melbourne Uni, in the exercise physiology field, and he always joked about, I could open up my own gym and have Jim's Gym. And he's always been a bit more theoretical and scientific, and I've always been little bit more practical. And it was just something that never really inspired me. And then I started my CrossFit journey at a gym in Hawthorn called CrossFit Hawthorn East, and then moved to Workshop and started training at Workshop in, I think about 2015. And that's when a brother-sister duo, John and Lizzie, owned it. And they were great because, you know, a CrossFit gym isn't cheap. And so, you know, initially we struck up a deal of, you know, like me, like cleaning the gym, and in conjunction with my degree, you know, starting to get some like hands-on practical like coaching experience. And if I'm being honest, I probably learnt so much more from John and Lizzie at workshop in the first 12 months than I did in my 4-year degree. And then, so I essentially became a coach at workshop. And then in the end of 2018, John left the gym. So it was just Lizzie running it. And she had a newborn baby and was living a little bit further away from the gym. And so I think it became hard to juggle so many balls. And so then she approached myself and my now business partner, his name's Ego, and said, "Oh, do you guys want to buy the gym?" And initially I thought, never wanted to own a gym, so not really. And then my girlfriend was like, "How many times in your life do you reckon you're just going to get handed this like fully functional, already established space with members that you know all of them?" Like, it kind of just makes sense that you and Ego kind of transition from coaches into owners at a space where you're already established. And so then thought, it's a pretty good point. And so yeah, we took it over, and then 6 months later COVID hit. So we've had the gym for 2.5 years, and 2 of them have been in and out of lockdowns, and it's been a pretty wild ride, to be honest.
Definitely. 2 things. Firstly, your girlfriend sounds like someone that definitely supports you and is very passionate for everything that you do.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Can you talk to us a bit about her?
Her name's Bridget, and well, I mean, how much do you want to know? So her and I have been lifelong friends before we started going out. Short story long, her brother is my best mate. So yes, I did start dating my best mate's sister. And so we've always gotten along really well. And she's such a like go-getter towards life, and it's so hard to like knock her down and keep her down, and she's just so resilient. And the way like her outlook towards life is definitely infectious, and makes me have a certain outlook towards life. So she definitely makes me a better person. And yeah, she's more fun than I am. She parties harder than I do. And she has just finished a degree at Swinburne, and she's just wrapped up a job at a company called Compass, and she's now kind of finishing up there, and then she's got a couple of things that she wants to try out on her own, so follow the entrepreneurial avenue. And so yeah, the next 12 months will be pretty exciting. Yeah,
like for like, both of you.
Yeah.
Awesome. And how does she like inspire you as a person, and how has she shaped the way that you sort of go about your everyday life? Yeah,
pretty much, again, the way that she's just got such a go-getter attitude. A good example would be years ago she was going to America for a 6-month exchange, and she had all these flight issues. I might also be getting this story partly wrong if Bridget is listening. So
sorry, Bridget.
Yeah. But she was having all these flight issues, and it turned out like the only day she could fly was Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And so, on, I think it was Christmas Eve, and the flight was from Sydney, Sydney direct to the States. And so, she was flying to the States on Christmas Day, and so she has to take herself to Sydney, and it was just this kind of scenario that is definitely not ideal. But instead, when she's in Sydney, she's like, well, I've got the day in Sydney. So she does the Sydney Harbour Bridge climb, and she is up there with this random group of seniors just enjoying the view from the top of the Sydney Harbour Bridge. And then she's walked around, seen the Opera House, done all these things. And it just, to me, really kind of captures what she's about. She's like, okay, well, I'm in Sydney. I've got 10 hours till my flight. So I may as well just extract as much as I can from this less than ideal scenario, on Christmas Day. And so, yeah, she definitely inspires me to do the same. Try to get as much as I can from each, each scenario.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess what's her impact been on your CrossFit journey? Because I can imagine you both made a lot of sacrifices for each other.
She's been awesome because we're not very compatible sleepers. She's a bit of a night owl, and I'm an early to bed kind of guy. And one of the things we had to kind of nut out early on in our relationship was, okay, well, look, I want to go to bed, and you're getting into bed and you're wired and awake for hours. And so she definitely compromised on giving up some of those later night hours of, staying awake. And she's just been so supportive, So for better context, at the height of my training, there's probably somewhere between 10 to 11 sessions a week. So three-ish days of double sessions. And it averages out to about 3.5 hours in the gym. Usually an hour in the morning, and then an afternoon session in there for 2.5. So that's a lot of time. And then the result of that is being pretty exhausted. And she's been so understanding of the physical demand and then the mental demand of, okay, well, now I just want to go to bed. I just want to eat and go to bed, and then we're going to do the same thing again tomorrow. I'm going to train, I'm going to do some work, and then I want to eat, and I want to go to bed. And she just hasn't batted an eyelid. She's been there was a point, timeline might be a little off here, but it was probably about maybe 12-ish months ago, where, in fact, it might have been after this competition last year.
Okay, yep.
She sat me down and was like, look, if you want to be one of the best in the country, then we need to start behaving like one of the best. And I'm going to help you in whatever way I can. So whether that means we go to bed earlier, we eat better food, I'm going to help you however I can. And I thought that's pretty cool.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, to have, because she's so selfless, and so she was just all right, well, my life and all these fun things I want to do, go out and drink, or all these things, whatever they were. There was never any pressure from her of oh, come on, relax a little, be a bit more fun, come out with us. There was none of that. She knew the path that I was trying to, go down with her help, and she was like, yep, you've got it. You've got my undivided support and help
Yeah, that's
So,
awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Alright. And I guess with your relationship as a whole, do you have any like takeaways or certain values that really stick out to you that you really hold to heart in terms of maintaining a healthy relationship with a significant other?
I think a good relationship is this weird dance between you make each other better, but you're also emotionally independent from each other. So the thing I love about Bridget is that she doesn't need to be, validated by my love, or, she doesn't need to be told that I love her or I support her or whatever it is. She's just like, she's such a like strong, independent woman in her own right. And I'd like to think I just kind of maybe add a little bit of a support layer to that. And, I would like to think that I make her a better person in the same way that she makes me a better person. So I think the secret to a good relationship is being able to stand on your own 2 feet. But when you're together, like, you just amplify the good parts of you. And yeah, the unity of you makes the actual person in the relationship better.
And has that taken a while to learn, or do you feel like it's come naturally between the both of you?
I don't know if it's something that you actually learn or if you just become aware of it. So, I don't think there was a point where I had to learn to, help Bridget be emotionally independent or learn how our relationship becomes better. It was just kind of becoming aware of, having a relationship in the past that didn't quite work, and now having this one, it works because of X, Y, Z. So, yeah, I think just kind of waking up to what makes it really tick. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Sorry to dive into a rabbit hole about your relationship.
No worries at all.
I just wanted to ask, like, why CrossFit? What's inspired you to take this journey over, I don't know, other things like ollie lifting or powerlifting or...
So I grew up really liking AFL and wanting to play football. I was a pretty good footballer through like under 13s, under 14s, under 15s. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I was never the best, but I probably had the hardest work ethic out of everybody. I loved going to football camps and things like that because the coaches would try to absolutely smash you and see what you're made of, and always liked, being pushed and coming out on top with all the training things. And I remember at the end of year 11, one of my mates showed me a video of Rich Froning doing a CrossFit final event. For anyone who doesn't know, Rich Froning is kind of like the OG,
the GOAT,
like GOAT of CrossFit. Yeah, so he won the title of fittest man alive 4 times in a row. So 2011, 12, 13, 14. Jeez. And so this was 2013 that one of my mates showed me this video. And the workout was some muscle ups, some handstand push-ups, and then like a handstand walk. And then like some walking lunges. And I was just like, what is this? Like, this is cool. And so then just kind of went down this rabbit hole of looking into all this stuff. And I've always been like pretty fit. And so was like, this is cool. This is like a sport where the fit person wins. So I was like, this is something I can potentially be good at. And also there's not too much like external things that dictate, how well you do. It's like if you work hard enough and you've got, a few things working in your favor, genetics, blah, 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 like you can be really good because it's all just about like how hard you train.
I was just going to add on to that point. Like, do you see the fact that CrossFit being an individual sport, what's the contrast like between that and footy? Because footy, sometimes you can have people who like don't put in as much effort.
Yeah.
Whereas CrossFit and all these individualized sports where you can dictate like your outcome essentially if you have a few things go your way. What do you think about that?
There's definitely pros and cons to both. I really like that you're accountable.
Yeah.
So it's like if you fall short, it's your fault. It's no one else's fault. But also having grown up playing team sports, half the fun is when you win, you get to share it with 17 other guys. And so it's so much more. It's the same with like shared suffering, like when you're training hard with a whole team, it's so much easier to keep pushing. And so the whole like camaraderie and, connections that you build in a team sport are probably better than the pursuit of like suffering by yourself. But I also, I wouldn't be doing this if there wasn't something that I like inherently enjoyed about it.
Yeah.
So having to really kind of ask those questions of yourself when, training gets hard and you're in the gym by yourself, I could just go home and relax. No one's making me do this. But then you kind of, that internal dialogue of, well, like you chose this, so shut up.
I can definitely relate.
Yeah.
And I guess you watched the video, felt inspired.
Yep.
And then what were the steps from there? Did you step into a gym to start training?
Yeah, so that's when I went to a gym called CrossFit Hawthorne East. And they were lovely. They were really nice team of coaches, and started training there. Was there for a couple of months, and I kind of knew that I had to get stronger. That was and still is one of my kind of like deficiencies in the sport, is that my absolute strength is kind of not where it needs to be. Because there are some markers of, certain weights that you should be hitting. Certain squat, certain, overhead press, certain snatch, clean and jerk, etc., etc. And so I was like, okay, I need to go to a gym that prioritizes strength, because the programming at CrossFit Hawthorne East was a little bit more like your just typical CrossFit. Move fast, move hard, and then like whatever. Whereas I had to be 80% strength and 20% move fast, not the other way around. And so I left the gym, and I learned a valuable lesson in how to run a gym, because they actually got really dirty on me. The owners, who they don't own it anymore, they were in Bali on a retreat when I found out about workshop. And so I've gone to work, and it was actually a coach at Hawthorne East that said, hey, like, go check out workshop. Like, they're a bit more strength oriented. So I went and spoke to John and Lizzie, and then I messaged the owners being like, hey guys, just letting you know, like, I'm stopping my membership because I'm going to another gym. And like, I was blown away about how this like fully grown adult male like responded to this 19-year-old boy being like, whatever, mate, like, got a bit of shit going on over here at the moment. Like, might talk to you when we get back. And they just like didn't hear from him ever again. And so I was like, okay, this is
What kind of message?
it's like if I ever own a gym, which now I do, it's like that is lesson 101 in how not to behave with someone like wanting to leave your gym. And I really liked the coaches there. The coaches were lovely, and the members were lovely. You know, because I was this young kid starting this CrossFit thing, and they were all awesome, except the two running the show. So that was interesting. But that's how I got into it. So saw this video, started training at this gym in Hawthorne, and then moved to workshop, and then just kept chipping away.
Yeah, awesome. Did you have any like initial goals leading into CrossFit? Like after you watched that video, where you like, I want to be able to handstand walk, or I want to compete one day?
Yeah. So I remember my goal being, okay, I'm 19. I want to be like a regionals level athlete. And for those of you that don't know what that is, that's kind of the old school term of basically being one of the best in the country. So before 2018, if you went to regionals, it meant like you went to the national competition in Australia and New Zealand, and you competed against the top 30 in Australia and New Zealand. That was our region. It was called like the Pacific region. And so I thought, okay, by the time I'm 23, I want to be a regionals level athlete. So I want to be near the top 30 in the country. And then, thought I was training hard, ticking along, getting stronger, getting fitter. Things were going well. And I distinctly remember the day I turned 23 and thinking, holy fuck, like I'm nowhere near it. Like I'm nowhere near where I wanted to be, and here I am 4 years later. Like, what have you been doing? And so that was a real eye-opener for me of, you think you're working hard, but it's like, how do you know that you're really working hard? Like, be honest with yourself. Are you doing absolutely everything you can to try to get to where you want to be? And then ask the question, well, do you really want to get there? And so then it was at that point that I was like, okay, I'm either not going to try and do this, or I'm going to try and do it. And I decided the latter. And from that point, really kind of dialed it in of, okay, I'm going to pay for someone else to do my programming, because I was doing a lot of my own programming.
Okay, yep.
And it's easy. It's so easy for you to not even realize how like you bias your programming towards what you're good at.
Yeah.
And so, I pay over $200 a month for someone else to do my programming. I tidied up my food in terms of just the quality. COVID really helped, because I stopped going out. And in the first 6 months of COVID, how good I got so quickly from just training, not going out, eating better and sleeping. I was like, okay,
we're on here.
Like this is the trajectory I know I can go on, so I'm going to keep going on it. And we're now 25, going in the right direction. As I spoke to you a little bit before, not quite at the rate that I would have hoped, but as I said, I can rest my head on my pillow at night knowing that I am training as hard as I possibly can, and I'm doing everything I can to try to be the best that I can.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the point. Like, it's not the outcome, and eventually getting there is nice and reaching the goal, but if what all those elite athletes and bloody Miley Cyrus say is true, it's more about the climb. Mm-hmm. And it's about the actual journey of trying to get there and the things you learn about yourself on the way, and then ticking off the goal of winning the championship or whatever it is. That's kind of the cherry on top, but it's more about that process. I think there was a video of Kobe Bryant, and he was talking about looking back on his career, he realised that, 5 championships or whatever, however many he had, they're nice and all, but where he felt like the real winner was those like 4 a.m. workouts where like he didn't want to get up, but he did. And then he worked out for, 2 hours, 1,000 free throws or whatever. And that's what really made him feel like a winner.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's not the championships. And I think that's something that's easier to say when you've got the championships. It's harder for me to sit here and not be the regionals level athlete that I want to be. And go, oh, but that's okay because I'm winning along the way of all my hard training. I'd still like to get there, and I plan to get there. But then I think retrospectively, it'll be like, oh yeah, it was just all those little things along the way.
Yeah, that eventually added up.
That were actually the wins.
Yeah. What did you learn about yourself at 23 when you look back and reflect on that goal that you had when you were 19? What did you learn about yourself?
I learnt that the easiest person to lie to is yourself, because there's so much dialogue with yourself, and it's just so easy to trick yourself into thinking, oh yeah, I worked hard, like I did this, I did that, whatever, and then I had my moment of, well, like you've been tricking yourself for 3.5 years because you're just nowhere near it. So, yeah, I learnt to like really, leave no doubt. And that, again, right now, how do I know that I'm really giving my best? I feel as though I'm doing everything I can. But how do you know?
Yeah. With the competition, of course, like, I guess that's your annual checkup, but do you, I guess, I don't know how you would measure it, because.
Yeah. And it's hard. So there's a thing called the CrossFit Open every single year, which is a worldwide competition. So there are workouts that are released online, and you get to do them and you get to see how you stack up against the world. Then from that, it's broken up into regions. And so we're in the Oceania region, which is just Australia, New Zealand, and I think Papua New Guinea sneaks into it. And you basically then compete against the people in your region. And so they take the top 10%. So this year there was 9,000 guys and I think 9,500, 10,000 girls. But so there were 9,000 guys I was competing against, and then they take the top 900, so the top 10%. And then you get a whole bunch of new workouts. And then from 900 they go to 30. So the top 30 is who go and compete at nationals. And the idea is that you then find the fittest top 3 in the region who then go to the CrossFit Games, which is over in America, and you then battle it out to see who is, quote unquote, by definition, the fittest man and fittest woman on the planet. So, yeah.
Run us through, I guess, the Open, your personal Open, and then obviously last weekend or this weekend?
This weekend, just gone.
Just gone, yeah.
So, without getting too technical, there are like different styles of CrossFit workouts. And the open style of workouts are more workouts that I'm kind of good at. So they're usually a little bit longer in time domain. They're a little bit simpler in terms of movements. And it's kind of like, how hard can you hurt and how long can you hurt for? And I'd like to think that's something I'm relatively good at.
I would say the same.
It's like anything. It's a skill that you practice. You practice, and without trying to sound cliche and lame. It's, you know, getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And it is something you practice. There comes that point in a workout where you go, okay, I could either take my foot off the gas, finish this workout and you still be done, or I can really go for it, finish this workout and know that I really pushed. And so the open workouts are a little bit more like that. And so, you know, from the 9,000 in Australia, New Zealand and Papua New Guinea, I finished 45th.
Jeez.
And so I was like, cool, okay, now for the quarterfinals, if I can, you know, do a little bit better, I try to be near the top 30 and qualify for the national competition. The problem is that the quarterfinals, you know, highlighted my weaknesses because they're a different style of workout. They're usually a little bit more technical in terms of like complex movements. So things like, you know, single leg squats, muscle ups, snatches, like heavy barbell snatches, you know, things that, yeah, higher skill, a little bit more like muscular endurance. You've got to, you know, do a lot of one movement before moving to another movement. And, you know, I ended up finishing 116th from the top 900. So they take the top 10%, and then I finished 116th. So it was kind of like a bitter pill to swallow of, well, I was 45th in stage 1, and then in stage 2 I was 116th.
Yeah.
And, you know, those stage 2 workouts are what are stopping me from getting to that top 30. So it's good that, you know, I know what I have to work on for the next 12 months. You know, those kind of like heavier bars, shorter time domains of like really moving quickly, trying to do a lot of reps.
But still trying to execute and maintain your technical capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, the open was good. And, you know, it got me excited of, yeah, okay, like I can kind of be near where I need to be. And the other thing as well, you know, so the open, it's 3 weeks and there's 3 workouts that come out. And so you have like a weekend to do the workout. And so I did the last workout I did on a Friday, and it was easily like the worst of the 3. I should have, if I was a little bit more ego driven, I would have maybe done it again on, you know, Sunday or Monday before the deadline.
Yep.
But I left my bad score up there, you know, went away for the long weekend, and so be it, and still finished 45th. And I thought, okay, if I redid the workout, you know, I might have finished 35th or 30th even.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that gave me that confidence going into the quarterfinals. And then, yeah, kind of brought me back down to earth a little bit.
Yeah.
And just...
Sorry, silly question. Is the open...
No such thing.
Thank you. Are the opens a separate thing to the quarterfinals, or do the points tally up together?
Completely separate.
Okay.
So you've just got to be in that top 10% in your region. Then the scoreboard goes back to 0, and then the top 10% compete against each other to find the top 30.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Have you had a chance to reflect?
Yeah. I tried to harness my best Jocko Willink. I don't know if any of you listeners know who he is. But I just kind of said to myself, good. You know, like, okay, you know, we can learn from this, and we can move forward. You know, good. I didn't qualify, good. You know, like we can build from here instead of, you know, having a sook about it. And so the other thing that happens with the quarterfinals, again, I try to quickly move through the nitty gritty because it's boring, but there are 5 workouts, and the scoreboard updates after each day. So it's 3 days of working out. You do 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. After Friday, the leaderboard updates. After Saturday, the leaderboard updates. And then after Sunday, the leaderboard updates and it's closed. And you can see where you are after each day. And it's a point system. So if you finish first, you get 1 point. And if you finish 200th, you get 200 points. So the idea is that you want as few points as possible. And after day one, I already had 300 points to my name, and I was sitting, 145th overall. And so it was like my weekend was done before it was even over. And so I kind of got to use the weekend of workouts to reflect. It was hard on the Saturday morning to go down and do the workouts when I knew my weekend was over. I knew that, I was not going to be anywhere near the top 30. But again, it's a good lesson to learn about yourself. It's like, well, you're just going to throw in the towel, or are you going to do these workouts and you're going to do them well? And so, yeah, I think I reflected over the course of the entire weekend, because after day one, it was over.
Yeah. And I guess you're actively learning about yourself during that time as well.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine so many people would have just thrown in the towel at that point.
Yeah, maybe. So the other thing that I didn't mention is that in the last 6 to 12 months because I've always done 99% of my training by myself. Mm-hmm. The last 6 to 12 months, I reached out to a couple of guys down at a gym in Moorabbin called CrossFit Project Bayside, and I've started training down there a couple times a week. And what I was talking to you earlier about, that whole shared suffering,
mm-hmm.
When you're playing a team sport or whatever it is, doing these workouts with, another 15, 20 people down at Bayside was so fun.
Yeah.
And it's just so much nicer. And so even though my weekend was over on the Friday, I still had all heaps of fun doing the workouts on Saturday with the crew there, and then on Sunday with the crew there. And sure, they may or may not have cared about where I finished, but I think that they don't really care. It's that whole spotlight syndrome of, it's you focused on you, but they're focused on them. And so they don't care if I was in the top 30 or if I was 300th. It's more about getting to do it together, having fun, getting to test yourself, ask those hard questions, and growing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been, I think the reflection process of not qualifying may have been a little bit more messy if it was just me at workshop by myself feeling sorry for myself.
Yeah.
But it was down at Project Bayside with a whole bunch of really nice people. And it made, I suppose, the grieving process, but it made it easier.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And reaching out to people when you are, I guess this is pretty surface level context, there are mental health issues going around, but when you reach out and do things together with other people who support you, it's really important.
Problem shared's a problem halved.
Yeah, definitely. How has CrossFit impacted your social life? I know you've talked a little bit about it in terms of your girlfriend, but I can imagine you're not a hermit. You still do other things, but
yep.
I can imagine the amount of nights out that you've sort of crossed off the cards.
Yeah, and I don't know if I would blame CrossFit for that. I'd blame me and my goals, because the majority of CrossFitters are just your everyday punter that has a 9 to 5, or they live their life and they come and do a CrossFit class 3 or 4 times a week. Mm-hmm. And so it's not necessarily it's my aspirations and drive that has led to a lot of foregone nights out. And that's part of, I think, from 19 to 23, I was kind of kidding myself a little bit of having big nights out. Sunday was written off, and then I'd get back into it on Monday and train again. And then during the start of COVID, what happened was Sunday wasn't a write-off, and Monday training was really good. You know, it's not like you're recovering from a hangover. You're recovering from your training, and you get to actually recover properly. And so the training just got so much better during COVID because I couldn't go out. No one was going out. And then it almost kind of made it easy for me because it was like, okay, well, if you want to keep getting this good, then it's pretty simple. Keep training hard, don't go out.
Yeah.
And so to clarify what I mean by going out, I mean going to the pub or a bar or a club until the early AM and, you know, having 10 beers and writing yourself off. I still go and have dinners with my mates and, you know, we might go to the pub, but I'll have a beer and with my dinner, you know, like a social beer whilst we're chatting. And then thankfully my mates are pretty supportive, and so they get it. You know, none of them try to force me. And also I think we've grown up a little bit. You know, there's none of that like, oh, come on, like have another beer.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're no fun. You know, there's none of that. And so they just know that it's like if you've got me on a night out, like you got a beer.
It's a privilege.
Yeah, you've got a beer, maybe two. Yeah. But like that's it. I don't know. I don't know if it's a privilege, but you've got James out. You've got a beer. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So, yeah, that was. It's definitely meant I've not wanted late nights because sleep is the best recovery technique there is, period.
Yeah.
It's better than any massage gun, foam roller, like cryotherapy, sauna, whatever. It's like sleep well and your performance will just go through the roof.
Yeah, I think I've just recently learned that as well. I had like a 9-10 hour sleep last night.
Yeah.
Like my body was wrecked. I feel so much better now. Just
and
knocked out.
Particularly because when you're young, you can you just think like you can burn the candle at both ends. And like you can for only so long.
Yeah.
And then good luck.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Definitely. On your friends as well, have you had any friends that you've sort of had to not necessarily let go or like stop hanging out with, but have you had friends where they've been less supportive or have been like, oh, come on?
Yeah, for sure. More to like the first point, like friends that you kind of do have to let go. Merely because coming out of school, you know, I can't speak for everybody, but I had quite there was a big group of us, you know, probably 20, 25 guys, and we were all, you know, like a good group of friends. And just the natural progression of life. When you're not with the same people 5 days a week from 8:15 when school starts to 3:15, you start to realise that you're different to all these people and they're different to you and you have different interests. And so you just start, you know, moving away from each other. And there were probably, you know, whether it was directly to my face or indirectly behind my back, I don't care. There would have been friends that were just like taking the piss of what I wanted to do. And so it was like, that's fine, but you can go live your life and I'll go live mine kind of thing. And then you know, naturally, like you figure out which friends you want to keep around and which ones you want to hang around. And so that group of 25 has kind of shrunk down to like this group of 6 or 7 that kind of see regularly. As I said, you know, they might be going out to the pub for a feed and they'll be like, oh, do you want to come for a beer? Yeah, sure, absolutely. And so that's been an interesting learning process of being okay with like getting rid of them
Yeah, for sure.
I'm also very lucky. I have two best mates who I've been best mates with forever. Went to primary school with both of them. And they're kind of like, for use of a better term, outside of Bridget, they're like my rock.
Yeah.
So I've always got them there. We've, the three of us have been best mates for 2 decades. We're growing and life's changing, but it seems like we kind of complement each other, and we're growing and changing in our own individual ways, but it still kind of works, and the three of us are still really close. And so having them around definitely helps.
Yeah. Would you say like this is like a lucky thing, or would you say there are certain things that you've learnt throughout, I guess, your high school life to now where you are, in terms of letting friends go and just being absolutely sure of yourself?
I think, I don't know if it's luck. I think it is just about having those hard conversations with yourself. Because I have a lot of internal dialogue with myself. I don't know if that's because like the nature of my job, one of my jobs, See the Ability, it's a completely mobile service, drive to clients. So I spend a lot of time behind the wheel. So that's a lot of time like by yourself, just thinking. Spend a lot of time in the gym training by myself. That's a lot of time with your own thoughts. And so there's a lot, I'm very like introspective, and I think a lot about thinking.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm not sure. I think you just need to paraphrase Jordan Peterson. You need to know what you want to go towards, and then you also want to know what you want to run away from. So like you have your ideal like goal, life that you're striving towards, but then you also want to visualize, well, if I don't strive towards that, like how shit could my life get?
Yeah.
Like how far could it spiral down? And so you want, something to run towards and something to run away from. And so you got to ask yourself those questions. Well, if I stay with these shitty quote unquote friends, like where am I going to be in 5 years? Or am I going to let them go? And then where am I going to be in 5 years?
Yeah.
And then it should be pretty easy to know which one to do. So
Awesome. How are we going for your time?
Good.
Good?
Yeah. We can keep going.
Okay, sweet. This is awesome. And okay, so you finished high school when?
2014.
2014.
Yeah.
What's the journey been like in terms of like uni and then starting the two businesses? Like,
Yep.
Has it been conventional or unconventional?
I'd say pretty unconventional. I have a lot of friends that, went to uni, did med, law, commerce, finance, whatever, which is fine. Like not knocking that at all. I was doing an exercise science degree, and as I said earlier, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And then started See the Ability. And yeah, just kind of rolled with it from there. So I was a strength and conditioning coach. I was a support worker, and I was doing an exercise science degree and a business degree. So it was a double. And I had a couple of people ask me, well, what do you actually do with an exercise science and a business degree? I said, well, I don't know. It's a good question. Like, start your own exercise business, and here we are doing exactly that.
Yeah.
And I'm very lucky. I have extremely supportive parents. They're so encouraging, and you do what you want to do. It's your life. And so I've been very, very lucky in that regard where, starting See the Ability, taking over workshop, it's at no point was I worried about the business failing and then me being out on the street, or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was, I always had the safety net of my parents, which I realise is something that so many people don't have. I'm so lucky that mum and dad both worked really hard. They're both now in their 60s and they still both work full time. And they're now starting to talk about retirement, but they've gone full tilt for however many decades. And so I'm so lucky that we get to live in this nice suburb, and I have these opportunities to do things where if they do fail, it's okay, because I'm still living at home with mum and dad, and then I can, try something else. And I'm so acutely aware that is a position that so many people are not in, and that's why I kind of strive to make the most of it, is because I am in that position. And so I'm not going to sit back and feel guilty about being in that position, but what I am going to do is try to optimize and squeeze every bit of the situation out of it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. You went to a private school as well, right?
Yep.
How many people have you seen or witnessed either feel guilty about their position or just not make the most of it?
I don't know if it's something that I haven't really spoken about it with a lot of my mates. There is one of my close friends who is one of the two of my best mates. He went to Carey, and we've spoken about that a couple of times. About how fucking unfair life is.
Yeah,
it just is. I was born in, if you ask me, one of the best cities in the best country in the world, to two very hardworking parents living in a nice suburb. If that's not winning the lottery, I don't know what is. And meanwhile, there are kids born to a drug-addicted mum and a dad that's not on the scene, and jumping from commission housing to commission housing, things like that. Life is terrible.
Shit,
it's cruel. Yeah. But whether this is naive of me or not, I feel as though the best thing for me to do is not feel guilty about the position of privilege I'm in, but it's to use it and start a business that helps people with special needs, run a gym that helps people get fit and healthy, live a life where I try to make everybody feel better after their interaction with me than before. Use what I've been given to make the world a better place. And I think if everybody did that, then
the world would be a better place.
It'd be a better place. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. No, I really, well, obviously I look up to you being my first coach and everything, but I think that's such a great perspective to have in this day and age in our world as well.
Well, yeah, and it's something that I've thought about a fair bit. And you got to be careful about how much media you choose to absorb, and things on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and whatever it might be, because if you absorb too much of the wrong stuff, then you might just sit back and go, okay, well, I'm a middle class white dude living in Melbourne with, what do I do about that? I should feel bad.
Yeah.
I should feel bad about all this privilege that I have. And then part of me just thinks, well, what good's that going to do? So
that's true, because
use it.
Yeah, you do see a lot of things on TikTok or Instagram, sort of bashing the fact that people are born into privilege, but it's it's not your fault that you've been born into it.
No,
at all. And the fact that you're taking the stance of utilizing it and trying to better other people around you is I think, amazing.
But then also, like, how nihilistic is the alternative of, okay, I've been born into privilege, so, like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to, like, get rid of it all and go and live my life like all these unlucky people that have been born into no privilege? Like, how's that gonna make things better?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good stance. I like that one.
So,
you do a lot of reading or watching motivational videos. Do you have any recommendations or things that you've sort of grasped upon and taken into your everyday life? I know there'd be quite a few.
Well, my favorite book is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I apologize if I'm not saying his name correctly. Very easy book to read. It's short. It's just a nice story about a shepherd basically having a dream and then chasing it.
To the listeners, Derek actually recommended that book as well.
There you go.
Yeah,
nice
so
one, Derek.
It's a popular one.
Yeah, it's and you know it's very accessible. As I said, I think it's about 180 pages. If you're a serious reader, you could knock that off in a couple of days. In terms of like videos and this idea that keeps popping up with, you know, things that I watch and books that I read and, you know, trying to find your purpose and things like that is kind of choosing the hard path. So choosing to do hard things voluntarily and then trusting that it'll pay off. For example, with all this really hard training that I'm doing, I can't tell you how many times in the last 12 months I've just thought, well, stuff this. Like, this is hard.
Yeah.
Like, why do I want to make myself hurt so much with my heart rate skyrocketing? And, like, I could just be hanging out. I could just be relaxing. Like, why? What's the point? And it's just trusting that doing hard things every day is going to pay off in a way that I can't conceptualize until I'm however many years, decades down the track. And then you look back and it all just connects up. And you go, oh yeah,
That's
it is.
why.
There it is.
Yeah.
Like, in plain sight, it's right there.
Yeah.
But you just couldn't see it.
Until you sort of zoomed out.
And you know, that's kind of like paraphrasing Steve Jobs's speech he did at a university graduation ceremony where he spoke about how he did all these random subjects at uni. You know, snuck into lecture theatres to just do subjects that he was interested in.
Yeah.
And he merely did that because he was interested in them. But then all these years down the track, he could look back and he could connect the dots of how doing those subjects helped him create Apple. And it's like, you know, so yeah, I think that's the takeaway is do hard things and trust that that's the right choice.
That's awesome. Actually, what does a day look like for you? To give perspective to the listeners, I know.
So, a day looks different depending on which day it is.
Yep.
You know, I think that's something, the unconventional work hours of, you know, running a gym, running a small business. There's no such thing as 9 to 5.
Yeah.
You know, so Fridays, for example, I'm up at 5 a.m. to coach the morning classes at the gym. But then, you know, Tuesday, Thursday nights, I'm coaching at the gym until, you know, 7:30. So it's a little different depending on which day, but I'd say a typical day would be waking up, good start. Then I will go and do my first session. And the first session's usually a little bit more kind of like aerobic based. So it might be on like a bike, might be on a rowing machine, a salt bike, whatever it is.
Yeah. Is that on purpose to get the air in, or?
Yeah, and it's also low impact. So, not completely smashing yourself before, your weights in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And also I do prefer lifting heavy in the evening, like afternoon, evening. And so, I'll do my first session, which is a bit more aerobic based, go home, and then I'll have my breakfast and like a coffee, a few cups of water, and like it's always the same. It's always like the same breakfast. Then I'll usually tinker away at like some emails and some admin stuff for both businesses. Particularly in the last 12 months, I've kind of moved a little bit away from the operations side of things and a bit more into like the management side of things. So with that comes, as I said, all these emails and just making sure that the cogs are turning. So I spend a fair bit of time on my computer, just making sure that's all going as it should. Then I'll usually like have lunch and then go do my second session, and then that's usually 2.5 hours. And then by that time, I might either have like the evening classes to coach at the gym or like an afternoon like private PT client, and then go home, have dinner, go to bed, and do it all again. So I think the other thing that is not fun to admit is that like monotony and repetition is key.
Yeah.
So literally just waking up, training, eating, doing a bit of work, training again, eating again, sleeping, and then just doing that all again.
Yeah.
Just repeating. It's not glamorous, but like that's what it takes.
Yeah, for sure.
So
how long into your training did you sort of realize that routine is key?
I think it was the lockdown. So the first lockdown where we spent 6 months where the gym was shut, I got to reap the benefits of seeing how good I got compared to, in 6 months. The improvement that I saw, I think, was at a quicker rate than the last 2 years.
Jeez.
And so it was like, this is the only thing that's changed has been not going out, it's like getting a bit more sleep, and just like the boring routine of same thing, day in, day out. And so whilst COVID sucked from a business point of view, like if I'm being honest, from a personal and training point of view, it was great.
Yeah.
Because I just trained the whole time.
Yeah.
And got to see like when you get, tweak a few things and work on this disciplined schedule, like look how good you can get.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What's next for you?
What's next?
You've just finished the CrossFit Games or your run.
So what's next is my business partner, Ego. He's getting married in Ireland in August.
Big ego.
So, yep, the big man. And so Bridget and I are going to do a few weeks in Europe in July and August, and then finish with his wedding. And then when we come back, Bridget and I are actually going to move to Queensland.
Oh.
And live in Queensland for a year or two.
Jeez.
So that's what's next.
I did not even know that.
Yeah. So it was going to be a little earlier, but then Ego's wedding changed the timeline a little bit. So the plan is to mix it up, and purely just because we can, for no other reason than that. And go live in Queensland for a year or two.
And what's the go with workshop and see the ability?
The plan is to keep them both.
Yep.
And as I said, kind of the last 6 months has been me working towards trying to phase out from the operations side of things and be a bit more like managerial, and just making sure that cogs are turning and putting systems in place that work remotely from Kew. And if they work remotely from Kew, then in theory they can work remotely from Queensland.
Yeah.
So
That's exciting.
yeah, that's what's coming up.
Wow. And where can we find you, Jim?
Well, you can find me working out, if you feel so inclined, on Instagram at Jim in the Gym. And then also there is the Instagram page of See the Ability and Workshop Gym.
And all of those will be in the show notes of the episode.
They sure will.
Thank you very much for popping into the studio and giving us your time.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for listening.
You can find the podcast wherever you're listening, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and be sure to follow at Life with Lamb Podcast on Instagram. And we hope to see you in the next episode.